Yeah. For me, I've been dealing with this allergy attack the last couple of days, so my sinus is a bit messed up. So if I sound a bit stuffy, that's why. So it's all good.
You have an even deeper, sexier voice, Barry.
Well, thank you. I'll take that.
Okay. This is one of the benefits about getting sick. Sometimes I tell people I sound like Brenda Vaccaro. Which
Nice.
people our age would know who that is, but younger people will go, huh? Who's that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hi, this is the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcasts, the number one internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, who's a little stuffed up, but sounding sexy as always.
Well, thank you for that, Christine. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, is this a fun topic? This is one of the ones where men and women generally, not always, but a lot, are so different.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to talk about today is leave me alone and how men and women face this really differently.
And also how they respond differently too.
So differently. Oh my gosh. Yeah, boy. I had no idea about this. I mean, not even an inkling until it was really repeatedly drummed in my head. Yeah, because it's so different. So I'm going to recap a little bit of things that we talked about in the past, because men and women generally, especially if we're more in our feminine as women and they're more in your masculine as men, because if you are more of the opposite thing, sometimes this doesn't apply to you.
Right.
Generally, men talk for three reasons. They talk because they want to share the news. Did you see it on the news? Did you hear about it on the news? And they have a real reason for sharing it with you. They think you might be interested. They want you to hear about stuff that they've been watching and working on the news. And the second thing is they have accomplished something. They've been working on a project or getting a promotion or figuring out a problem that they've been working on. And they really want us to go, yeah, good job. And the third reason they talk is if they do have a problem and they've really worked hard, they put it in the back of their mind, they've been puzzling over for a long time, and they just haven't come up with an answer, they're going to seek out an expert. And the minute they're done talking about, I have this problem, they expect the first words out of the expert's mouth is, this is the solution.
Mm-hmm.
They're generally not talking about, I'm really feeling bad and I've had a bad day and I want to recap what my horrible days was with my employees and my boss. No.
Right.
So generally the reason that we women talk, I happen to be one of those, so I can speak from this very succinctly.
Yes.
We talk about because we have feelings a lot of the time about a lot of things. So we talk when we're happy, we talk when we're sad, when we're mad, when we're upset, when we're confused, when we're pensive. We have feelings filled us up and we just don't know what to do with them. And the best way for us to start feeling better about these feelings is to talk about them. Even excitement can feel overwhelming and just too much pressure. And we want to talk about the excitement, but especially if we're upset, we want to talk about it, because as we talk about it, the pressure that we feel goes down.
Right.
When men are upset, generally, and they feel pressure too, they go do something physical, go for a run, work on their car, watch their sports team, read the newspaper. They will do something that makes them feel better. Our doing something to make us feel better as women is to talk about it. So with that said, and this subject in mind of leave me alone, what we women often do when a man looks upset, he's had a bad day at work or something's not going right, he's trying to fix, or we've said something that's maybe not very nice.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell he's upset. I mean, it's not that it's not obvious that you're upset. And we're like, well, talk about your feelings because it makes me feel better. So I know it's going to make you feel better.
Oops.
Of all these years I've been alive, of course it will make you feel better.
No, that's so funny. It's interesting. A couple of things you said I want to recap quickly on. The three things men talk about, the truth is what we share about usually is data points. They're just
Mhm.
facts about something going on, sort of thing, the news, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Whereas women are all about the feelings and the experience and expression. So it's very clear that what's being shared are so different for men and for women. If you get that part alone, you're way ahead of the game. So that's a good start. The second piece is actually I want to say a correction, but one thing I feel is more accurate for way men when we are upset, we want to get the energy out, and so but talking isn't our normal vehicle. So doing something for us is more physical. So not as much watching stuff as much as doing stuff is more better for us. So going out like chopping wood, or going for a hike, or going playing sports and like battling against our brothers.
Yeah.
Definitely physical is what we help get tension out of the way.
Yeah.
For those of us men who in masculine are more evolved, once we've done that, then we can talk. And if a woman hear us how we feel, we're quite happy to share it with that. Once we've taken the pressure off, because the thing is also, and maybe it's just personal for me, is I feel like if I'm really upset, if my woman asks me, to share with her, it's like I don't want to hurt her with my upset. I'll take it somewhere else. That's what we do. We're protecting a woman by going somewhere else to express it, to get it out. Once that's gone and the pressure valve's been released, then we can talk without risking hurting our partner. So then we can share with her.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, we need an outlet first before we can communicate. So the leaving us alone piece is really, let me go take care of myself so I don't hurt you. Then I can talk to you.
Mhm.
So that leaving alone is actually in protective mode.
Yes. And it was the thing that it's probably one of the biggest hurdles for me and for other women I talk to hear.
Mhm.
You're doing it because you want to do best for us. But if you
Yeah.
talk to me, it would be better. No. Because we have this desire, because the way that we dispel the energy. I love how we're going to just talk about this on an energy level, because you feel like a nuclear power plant inside. When you're really upset, anybody, man or woman, when you're really upset, there's all this energy inside of you, and you need to do something with it because you don't want to explode all over the other person.
Right.
And because you're bigger and powerful than us, and not like you would ever do anything to hurt us because you're a good guy, you need to do something physical, and you don't want to do something physical with us or to us. It was interesting though, the sports thing. I was amazed because I had a guy, more than one actually, now that I keep asking, what about a sports team that if it's a sports team that they like, they can get like this extra adrenaline rush when they're succeeding. And if that's the only outlet, I just thought it was, because I do know the doing something yourself physical is way more effective.
Mhm.
Where it can help a woman to go do something as well. And what we'll do is we'll go do something and talk to our friend on the phone. We'll go for a walk and call our friend on the phone.
Yeah.
You will go do something and not talk to your friend on the phone. You'll do it to get rid of the energy, and then you'll talk to somebody generally. And I want to keep saying that word so loudly because there's always exceptions. There's always exceptions to that person. There's always exceptions to your circumstance. I mean, we're just talking about the majority of people. And generally, you can't go wrong if you at least listen to this generalization, because generally, this is how men and women get in trouble with each other. When I'm upset, I want to talk, and I don't necessarily tell you I want to talk, or the way I've talked to you in the past hasn't been very conducive to you listening to me. So because you know that what's best for you when you're upset, you want to be left alone, you leave me alone. And then I'm like, he doesn't even care. He doesn't even care. Did he not see me storm off to the bedroom? Doesn't he know? Doesn't he hear in my head? I want him to come and check on me. At least check on me. Just ask me what's wrong. No.
Mhm. No.
If I don't tell you ahead of time, when I get upset, I might storm away. It's kind of who I am. I'm sorry. I know it's really like 12, but I might. And I really am going to need you to at least come and check. I'll be clear about yes or no. Yes, I need you. No, I don't. I really need you to check. I have two friends that now do this, and oh my God, it's worked so well for them, because you don't know as the guy. But if you have instructions, okay, I can go knock on the door and she's not going to yell at me or be mad at me because she told me to do this. And she's going to say, yes, come in, or no, I don't want you to come in. And if I say no, I mean no. I'm not going to give you repercussions later because that's the problem. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. When I'm so not fine. And I really want you to ask me. And I haven't told you, please ask me. Please sit there and hold my hand. Please let me tell you how awful my day was. Please let me just expound for 10 minutes and not give me any advice. I mean, how many times have we talked about that? And if a guy hasn't heard this loud and clear from the woman he really cares about and really wants to help, his first instinct is, okay, I know she'll handle this because that's what I do.
Exactly.
And then she's even madder when she comes back.
Absolutely.
Really.
It's so crazy because, I mean, John Gray talks about how different men and women are in Mars and Venus type modality. This is so true. And that recognition that we do function differently, we do emote differently, and we do express our upsets differently is such a clear understanding when we get it, but it's so amazing we don't get it until we know. And that understanding, yes, that because we unfortunately paint our partner with the same brush we paint ourselves, meaning that we look at our partner and think, well, when I get upset, I do this, therefore she should do the same thing. That we don't have a second thought about, well, I should go check on her and maybe check in and make sure that things are okay, because I would hate that for her to do that to me until I'm ready,
Mm-hmm.
So I figure she'll come back to me when she's ready, and I'll be present to her and be able to support her. So at the time she's going to do her own thing, same as I would do my own thing. And of course, that's exactly the opposite. And that's the thing that is so powerful when we recognize how different we are, but how we can bridge that gap by knowing how the opposite person or the opposite gender responds differently to us. And that sense that when a woman's upset, it is, I mean, we both talk about Alison Armstrong's work with the whole thing about that, because the thing is, when a woman is upset, it's like a storm beyond reckoning that we as men, our focus really, and the way she talks about it, is like we're the lighthouse. Our job is to be present, stand still, and not say anything. Don't do anything except be present, which for us is a great job because we don't have to do anything. It's great. We just sit there. You have to analyze, you have to figure things out. We just simply be there and listen and hold the space. And if we do that, it'll help her to be able to do stuff. But the thing is, it's something that we're not trained to do, which is one of the challenges. And it's something that I definitely did the wrong way when I was younger, because when my wolves got upset, I'd run away. That was my mode of operation back then. Now I know so much differently. It's a different paradigm, but the instinct's still in there. So I have to hold myself back from running away to stay present, because I know it works. But the thing is, it's also antithetical to the way I would normally handle things. My thing is to go away, do my thing, and then come back when I'm ready. So that leave me alone piece, again, is different for men and women as well.
So you can hear how important it is to acknowledge who are you and what are your needs. You've known yourself for a while. What have been your needs when you have been upset, when you've needed support, when something's going wrong in your life and you have all this energy, you have this nuclear power plant going wah, wah, wah inside of you. What is going to help diffuse it? What's going to help take the energy down? Be really clear about it. And then we just assume everybody knows, because I know this is how I am and all my girlfriends are like this. I mean, oh my gosh, if she calls and says, this has been awful, I'll go, tell me everything. Tell me every single thing, and I'll be so happy to listen. And a guy sees another guy upset and he goes, I know, I'll work it out. He'll let me know if he needs anything. I mean, it's just, we know what to do with the person who feels the same way inside as we do. So to talk about it with your partner about, you might not know this. This is how I work. This is my manual when I have a bunch of emotions about something. And it could be even just, I'm really excited and happy about something, which isn't as often for sure. But if he doesn't know it's important to listen, he might be doing something and doesn't hear that it's really important, and we'll keep doing it. Well, then we think you're not going to listen or pay attention, and now you don't care even when I'm excited and happy. So I'm saying most often in my personal experience, and in most of the women I talk to, it's because we're upset with something bad, uncomfortable, unfathomable, and sometimes it's you that we want to talk about and get the upsetness. But it covers, because we have lots of emotions about lots of things, it could cover all sorts of emotions. And if we haven't clued you into, when I'm having a big emotion, let me know, can you stop right this minute and listen? And if you can't, how soon can you? Going to be in the next 5 minutes, because I'm really going to explode about excitement even.
Yep.
And it gives you a chance to succeed, which is what all good men want to do. You want to stop stepping on those landmines, and we don't always tell you that they're there or how to avoid it.
Absolutely. That's the biggest challenge, frankly, is listen to people, that the feeling we have oftentimes is walking on eggshells, because, and again, definitely qualifies for good men, because there are men out there who don't care, don't respect, and that's a whole other story. But in terms of, for most men who are good men, the sensitivity we think we want to have for our partner, which we don't have, because our partners are so much more sensitive than we are.
Yeah.
So we feel like we're a bull in a china shop sometimes, unless we're oblivious completely, in which case we don't know we're doing that. So oftentimes we'll leave our woman alone because we think it's the lesser of evils. Like, we try to get involved, we try to do something, we're going to be so clumsy or so ignorant of what's going on, that's just going to be worse off than when we started. So better off leave her alone, let her work things out. And when she comes to us, then we'll be safe, because it'll be in our own terms then, much healthier, much easier,
I love how you pointed out, because I tell women all the time, men want to be their best selves in front of us. They do, which is why they go take lessons to do something before they do it in front of us. They don't want to practice much in front of us. We're fine practicing in front of people. Even if we're a competitive person, we still are fine practicing in front of people. Men don't like it. You want to be really good at it before you come. So if you want to be good at doing whatever it is we're going to need, and it won't work well if we haven't told you ahead of time. I was trying to think all the variety of this, and one of the things I was thinking about is when somebody's sick. So who are you when you're sick? And I'm going to take men and women out of this, because I'm going to say I've met men and women on both sides of the aisle with this. Do you like a lot of attention? Do you like a little attention? Do you like a lot? Do you like none? Where are you on the scale? And it might not be every time, but you need to say. So women complain all the time about what big babies men are, and we're really glad you aren't in charge of giving birth, because our population probably would be lower, because your body and your sensibilities just aren't built for that. I think God was thinking about that ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So I've in the past dated men who were so extreme of completely leave me alone, or, oh my God, you can't give me too much attention, and everywhere in between. So I was glad that they told me, because I learned to start asking when I kept reaching these. It's not like they all got sick all the time, but like I like bringing chicken soup, and I took him coloring books. He thought that was the funniest thing ever, because he was stuck. And I said, well, here, I have some coloring books and crayons. He laughed. It was a subject he liked. And so there's another leave me alone. Do I mean it? Leave me alone. Am I serious? Leave me alone for an hour. Leave me alone, but don't really, if I say it. I mean, be honest about who you are. Call yourself out and say to the other person, this is who I am when I'm sick. Yeah.
That's the thing, is so true, that in a lot of ways we want to show a mastery in front of you rather than our weakness or lack of some ability to do something. It's almost, it's definitely attached to our egos, but the thing for me about being sick, it's almost like I just want to be on my own, cut up in the corner, and I'll be fine when I get recovered, sort of thing. And to be nursemaided almost feels somehow like I'm being undermined. What it is, I know, for a lot of men, is you feel like it's almost undermining a masculinity. If we accept support, if we accept, that partner sees it out of weakness. Whereas after you.
So it's a strength for both people to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And I understand we need to have a break. We're going to have a fancy commercial show up, and we'll be right back.
See you in a minute.
Okay. lot of fun commercials, EC, for our great hosting platform of the streamingnetwork.com.
However, if you're listening to this podcast on audio, not seeing the commercial, unfortunately, none of the content will be visible to you. However, there should be notes below in the show notes that give you a little explanation of what the ad was about. So
yeah, you'll learn all about this wonderful platform where we're podcasting from.
Exactly.
So back to our interesting subject of today of leave me alone.
Yes.
I want to be alone. And how men and women face this so differently. So we were talking about when you're sick, and Barry was saying how I loved the possibility of harming your masculinity, because it feels demeaning maybe to you, for sure.
Well, it is the thing where it's like, I think for a lot of us men, there's a sense of how we want to be seen by others, especially our partner.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're seen as weak, that undermines our position as being the man, the masculine partner, the guy in charge of the thing. So being sick is something where it's like, yeah, it's like, because we want to tough it out. It's the other part. We don't want to act sick, so we'll tough it out, which is not going to be good. So if we leave us to our own devices, we'll be fine, in a separate room where you're not seeing us, so we can then be like the blubbering baby we want to be without you seeing that. So in some sense, it's a sense of self-preservation of our ego.
Mm-hmm.
But when a woman is sick, it's funny. I think I've said the story before about the vulnerability thing. When a woman is sick, for some men, they don't want to deal with it because, again, it brings up their own stuff about being that way. But for me, the other side of that is that if my partner's sick, I'll do whatever I can to take care of them, especially if they tell me what they need, because I'll happily do that. Because then it's a win, because I've got a goal to satisfy her need, and then she's happy, and then I'm happy because I won, sort of thing. That's the mindset through it. But the thing about it also is there is something about being sick that can be a vulnerability. And I mentioned this one before in one of our podcasts we did last year sometime, year before, that I was in a brief relationship where the woman and I were having a great time together, but she came back after an evening out. She had food poisoning. And basically, I remember holding her hair back while she was throwing up in the bath, in the toilet. And because it was like, I care about her. I want to take care of her. I want to be the caring, caregiving, nice guy for her. But she got so upset by it because she didn't want to be so vulnerable in front of me. Even though we'd had sex and all sorts of fun stuff all the way through, that level of vulnerability was different. And so for her, it was a line that got crossed that didn't work for her. And in fact, we broke up pretty much after that, because she didn't feel safe around me, because she'd shown too much to me in a way, So that's one of those. And I would suggest in that case, she may be more unique than more common in the sense of how women are. But that was a game changer for me to recognize that, there's some things that doesn't matter how I am, the response is going to be different depending on who it is I'm with.
That's quite the story. And it would be interesting. We will never know. Did she know this about herself ahead of time? Had it happened before? Was this a total surprise that she'd never thought about how she would feel in this very specific situation? Wow. Yeah, that's a startling occurrence. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And you as a man would understand feeling extra vulnerable with somebody if you were throwing up and they were giving you a wet washcloth, and how extra vulnerable you'd feel if you hadn't explored that in yourself before, or explored it with how would you feel with her if that happened. Wow, that's a great story. I think that's really helpful. I think that people will go, is there anything inside of me? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's been interesting to ask people just in conversation. Who knows if I date them long enough for one or both of us to get sick?
Right.
How are you when you get sick? What do you do as remedies? And are you a crab? And do you like attention? And I'll tell you, I have not talked to a man that didn't have a very quick, thorough answer. They all knew. Women really kind of thought about it, and it really could be different depending on what kind of sick and where they were. And I mean, I've heard a lot of variety from women and having to think about it. Men are just this or this or this. Like, you said, The other thing I thought of, because it was an interesting occurrence. So my mom died. It's now been 13 years on April 19th, right before Mother's Day. So I told my late husband, because I still had my event planning company, and I was still doing a lot of those. And I had this wedding, and I said, I have a wedding the day before Mother's Day, and I'm going to spend Mother's Day in bed. I'm going to watch movies, and I'm going to have a Kleenex box, and I'm going to cry. And I would need you to show up with meals 3 times a day, and I need you to check in twice in between. And then I'll be fine. I really will be fine enough. This is what I need to do to heal on my first Mother's Day, hardly even a month after she died. And he said, okay. And I wasn't paying any attention to the clock, but you could have set a clock by him. I mean, he was ready with, he brought me breakfast, and he came and checked on me in between, and then he brought me lunch, and he came and checked on me in between, and he brought me dinner. And I could hear he and my stepdaughter talking downstairs. What's going on? And I mean, she knew my mom had died. And he goes, she gave me instructions about how to deal with her today. And then the next day, I was okay enough. Mm-hmm. I needed to purge because we'd always done lots of stuff on Mother's Day. It was extra, extra hard. And I said, I know exactly what I need. And he'd already learned that about me from our very early dating time. And so he was so excited to have the instructions because, as you said, you want to help us fix whatever it is in any way you can. So if we give you really clear instructions, you are on. He was so, and that he so listened and did exactly what I said and stayed within those parameters. I mean, how could you just not love him even more? I mean, it was so lovely. And he was so relishing, because anybody that's been listening to know he was married twice before me, had never had clear instructions from anybody at any time. And in the beginning, he's like, ooh, I'm not, these are hard conversations to have. And then he liked it because he did know.
Yeah. And that's the thing is,
this is how much I want to be left alone. Not this much, not this much. Yeah.
That's the thing that for the women listening is that if you're in a relationship with a man who cares about you, wants to serve you, the best thing you can do is let him know what works and what doesn't work. I mean, because we work better. I mean, it's just simply the fact is our instincts aren't necessarily as refined or as strong as yours are. And so one of the challenges for us men is that we sometimes, again, we blunder through because we don't know better. So you give us clear instructions. I mean, as you were telling the audience and telling me how you had it set up with your husband, your late husband, about how to deal with you during that time, part of me is going, oh, goody, so much easier. Because that would be such a gift in a sense, because then I can build my day around that structure and it works, rather than have to remember or set it, then have to think about it, like, well, just checking, well, what do I do? How do I, all that stuff that comes up. And having been burnt before in that experience of taking care without having an agreement in place, not saying right, wrong, just what it was, it's so much now for me clear. It's about, I know now when I'm start dating, if you get sick, how do you want me to be with you? Because I now know there's a spectrum, there's a variance, and there's a range. So the way you handle it is great because it gives it such clarity. It's much easier. So ladies, follow their instructions. Do the instruction thing. It's much easier for us men.
And we women have so many really good reasons, we think, for not saying what we want. Mm-hmm. And we think that it doesn't matter if we have to ask for it. We think you should just know. Yeah. We think it will be done in the way we ask.
Right.
And it feels like, why? Why do I have to tell them? Why do I have to tell anybody what I need and want? And I spent a lot of years, I've talked about how I scream in my head what it is I need and want, and how come they couldn't hear the megaphone coming out my ears because I was screaming so loudly in my head.
Right. Yeah.
And when I was dating between my marriages is when I had men very nicely teach me, I'd really probably like to do what you want, but I don't know what it is. You have to tell me. Really? Tell you? And I was my little hesitant, really? If I tell you, like, do it? Really? Oh my God, really? And they would, to their best ability, and sometimes even better than I even could have thought. So, I switched. I took the pledge. So in this instance, we can't stress enough, men and women talk about what leave me alone means, and when you want it, and when you might not want it. And you're not saying blanket every time. You're just saying generally. And then how do you have a means of going, it's different this time? Because
Yeah.
after my mom died and before Mother's Day, I did need different kinds of support because I was working so hard. And he knew I could ask. And he would check in, what are you needing today? And how are you doing today? But I'll tell you, I told him the minute May happened, I was like, oh crap. We're looking at this, whatever day it was. This is exactly, put it on the calendar. So if you start out talking ahead of time about, when I'm having a bad day, I need this much space, or I need you to be in my face, or I need you to rub my back or rub my feet. I mean, it might just be as simple as that. Say it out loud that I'll tell you the thing I need, because I have a variety of things I might need. And then, can you do it? Can you do it right now, this minute? How long do you need before you can do it? It has to be part of the conversation. It just has to.
Yeah. And the thing is, recognizing that the alone request is going to differ based on gender usually. So what a woman wants to, when she wants to be left alone, whereas a man wants to be left alone, are actually different. And the thing about it is, that's okay. They don't have to be the same as each other, thank God. Yeah. And so I said at the beginning about, from us men, oftentimes we won't be left alone to either commiserate our own upset because we're ill, or we want to go vent our anger out somewhere else before we come back and talk. It's not about her, it's about us. And for women want to be left alone, it's about her, not about us. So recognizing that it is absolutely clear that the choices we make to be left alone are really self-centric, not about the other person. Don't take it personally. Recognize that, be okay with it. And again, like you said, having conversation ahead of time, but circumstances that may show up, prepares both partners for what can happen and then what to do about it, which is so much easier.
So you pricked something in my mind when you said that, because I know there might be times when leave me alone because they're annoying the shit out of you, or you've had it with whatever they're doing. Either way, I mean, men and women can get really, and so that's different.
Yes.
And that's a symptom usually of there's been too many things that maybe I haven't said that have been bothering me, and now I've reached my quota and now I'm tipping over. So that's very different. We're going to do that as a subject, because I think that would be really important to talk about when you're working up to something, to how to recognize it, how to talk about it, because that kind of leave me alone isn't fitting this at all. I thought when you said it, I thought, oh, I'm so glad you said it, because I want to put it out there that people are going to go, but what about, because there is this piece of, I can't deal with you right now, not because of this, I'm upset, but because there's been too many things in a row, probably between us. It's not, I've had too many things at work and I need to go work it out. It's, I don't like how you treat me. I don't like that you keep grabbing at me. Whatever the thing is, that frustrated, or it could be, tell me about your feelings about being at work and you're like, leave me alone. Right. But I think it's a whole, don't you think it might be a whole nother area to talk about how you've built yourself up to this frustration place?
The challenge can be that we want to be perfect partners for our relationship, and we sometimes are oblivious to the fact that we're stepping on our partner's toes, or just doing the same thing again and again, and our partner's like done with it. And it isn't necessarily that we always get, because the other thing is also this assumption that when we're doing the work, we should be able to handle everything and communicate anything that's going on in the moment and be perfectly online and everything's going to be great. Like, no, sometimes you need the space to process through things. Both men and women need that. And the need or the requirement to leave you alone is so you can reset before you come back into it, because there can be so much triggering going on, which is the key. The triggering is the discomfort that just won't let up. And so when you do have that level of triggering going on, you say, leave me alone, I need some space to clear. It's like, because you want to communicate what's going on, but in the place you're in now, you wouldn't communicate that effectively without wounding the other person. And in conscious relationships, and having elevated that level where you start talking about ownership of language and being able to take responsibility for your own participation in what's going on. If your buttons being pushed that many times by your partner because something they're doing obliviously to what you're feeling, you're not likely to come back from a place of responsibility, and you're attitude, you may be reacting and blowing up at them, and they're going to go, what happened? And then because a whole discord between the two of you. So to have the escape valve, in a sense, say, leave me alone, so you can basically separate away from the person to do your own work, to get to recenter, to come back and say, you know, when that happens, I get upset and it's not working for me. Versus, you are pissing me off, you know, shifting that energy is such a key part. So having that escape valve is a good thing as well.
Mm-hmm. And we never say stuff isn't going to come up. Right. It's two human beings living their lives and having all their past things and their future wishes and hopes. Stuff's going to come up. Our intention is to give you tools to talk about stuff ahead of time. And when the stuff is in your face, that you have tools to diffuse it, to at least lower the problem, the energy, the frustration, and then how to talk about it and settle it and have it be not as bad or better next time. That's really our intention, because nobody has a perfect relationship. Nobody doesn't have disagreements. I mean, some people certainly have less and some people have a lot more. And what we hope with all of our podcasts is that you now have a means of recognizing ahead of time, oh gosh, I haven't ever talked about this before. I probably should. That would be really helpful. And even though it's scary. And then when stuff happens, you're like, oh, I never thought about that before. And it's a big deal. And I have to talk about it now. And am I talk about it when I'm really mad? Or am I going to wait till later? Or am I just going to tell them I have to talk about this when I'm really mad? And I mean, that you've laid some groundwork ahead of time, that when unexpected new things like this young lady you were dating come up, that she would have had some tools to go, gosh, I'm really feeling embarrassed. I'm really feeling uncomfortable. Wow, that was too vulnerable. It was like showing you my butt, only the other end, actually. And can I get over this? Can I move forward? What do I personally need? If you're fine with it, how do I get fine with it? Yeah. Can't get over that story.
Well, it's one of those lessons that taught me a lot. And and in this context, to say that's the thing, is that we, as you said, you know, two humans together is going to create friction. Stuff's going to happen, definitely bring things up. And recognizing when you enter a relationship that it's not going to be all, you know, daisies and sunshine. This stuff's going to come up that's going to get in the way. So not saying you should have a list of all things to deal with that are bad, but just know there's going to be other parts of the relationship that's going to show up that can give you pause for thought or opportunities to work on your own skills in communication. And so the idea of leaving me alone in this conversation, in this context, is to recognize that there are times when it's good to be away from the other person, to just regroup, to reset, to take care of yourself. So when you come back, you can communicate in a more loving, kind, and compassionate way. The thing is, though, in relationships, oftentimes we think we've got to be in each other's face all the time, which means that when that stuff comes up, there's nowhere to hide, nowhere to go with it, nowhere to deal with it. And it sounds like, oh, it's great. You can't hide it anymore. You have to face it and deal with it. It's like sometimes you need space to regroup first so you can communicate the way you really feel versus blow off the upset off the top. It's like blowing the foam off the top of the coffee and not letting you actually see what's underneath it. It's like time. It is important to have time alone we can do that with. So leave me alone is a valuable part of being in a relationship in that sense.
Yeah, I love that you could talk about how to create a break. And what is a break to each of you? Just space. Just, you know, do you go off to different rooms? Do one of you go outside and inside? Do one of you just put the newspaper up or a book up? I mean, it might just even be that. Right. Or you go each sit in your favorite chair and do something on your own. You don't even have to be in a different space physically, emotionally. You detach emotionally until both of you are in a place where you can talk about it. I mean, that's the kind of tools that we're teaching every week to help people move through the hard things and to even be more stronger on the other side. I mean, that's really our intention with all of this.
It's true. One caveat, though, I want to say just on that piece, because I think for men, it's going to be hard to stay in the same room as the woman when we're upset. That's because we are visually stimulated. So when we see a woman, it's like we need to take our mind off of her and off our situation and our physical space. So to get out of the space, to do something else we mentioned earlier about, you know, whether it's going inside physically, can be the best route to get back to center, to come back in the right way. So I'm not sure it's so easy to stay in the same room. And I don't know, women can, but we definitely as men, I just find it harder to stay in the same room and clean up what's going on internally.
Good point. And you probably can't do anything physical.
That wouldn't help. Not in that moment. Might be fun, but it wouldn't help in that moment.
Well, yeah, that kind of physical. Yeah, I'm not sure she's going to be in the mood.
No.
There's makeup sex after. That's what's even better. If you really do get through this and you're feeling even better about each other, then then please do that.
That's
I highly recommend it.
Indeed.
Well, on that note, because we have to bring up sex at least once in every podcast, no matter what we're talking about.
Perfect.
Thank you. So, if any of this has rung true to you, you're like, oh, this has happened to me. It's happened to me a bunch of times. I don't want it to happen to me. I have never known how to ask for things. I don't know how to have this kind of conversation. How do I even as a man have this conversation with a woman? That's why we're here. We're happy to teach you.
Absolutely.
So the way, if you'd like to get a hold of me, is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. And you click on what's holding you back from love, and that will give you an opportunity to schedule a complimentary conversation with me. And we can talk about the challenges that you're having in your relationship or lack of. You could be in a relationship that's hard, or you'd like to get in a relationship and have it not be so hard. You can also join my email list through my website and get a repeat of this podcast, and I'll send you information about what I'm currently working on. If you go to the bottom of my homepage, you can click on all my social media little icons of Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest, and I can't do all the names, Threads and YouTube and Instagram. I don't know. You do all the right names. You can also send me a personal email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And Barry, please tell people how to reach you.
In a similar fashion, I have a website. So you can go to barryselby.com, which is my name. It's easy to find. And similarly, on the homepage of my website, there's two links. One clicks into, which is take your next step, or take your first step, which takes you into a calendar link to have a session with me to just navigate where you are and where you're going. Because same as Christine, if you're looking for help in your relationship or looking for help to get into a relationship, definitely reach out to me so I can help you with that. At the bottom of the home screen, there's a link to join my email list where I also send out the show and all the other things I'm working on. You can also take my quiz, which is still up and running. And if you are having challenges navigating the relationship paradigm, if you're single and not sure where to go, and if you're not sure if you're ready for a relationship, my relationship readiness assessment quiz is out there for you. If you go to barryselby.com/quiz, you can take the quiz and it will give you some feedback, give you some numbers and an invitation there to reach out to me for support as well. You can drop me an email at barry@barryselby.com. And on the socials, all the platforms are my name, which is Barry Selby, like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, especially tons of videos on YouTube, Pinterest, and then Instagram and Threads are the real Barry Selby. And just follow me there, get some support, reach out to either one of us through our websites. We're here to help you because the thing is, this relationship stuff, it takes some work, and we've got skills.
That's why we've been studying it for such a long time, so that we can learn so much helpful information for people. So we will have helpful information again next week. We're here every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. We'd love for you to watch us live and make comments, or if you watch a replay, please ask us questions, give us suggestions about what you'd like us to talk about in future podcasts. You can watch us live on Roku, and you can also listen to us on Apple and Spotify and iHeartRadio. I forgot about that one since we've been talking. I know we have a lot of listeners, and people are binging, listening, and watching us. We're really excited about that.
As long as they take notes, I don't mind.
Yeah, I think that's great. So thanks for listening and watching, and we'd be so happy to see you next week.
Take care of yourselves, and if you've got questions, reach out to us. If you want support, definitely reach out to us.
Yes, please. Bye for now.
Bye.